Well, President Obama held his second major news conference this week, and we're getting a glimpse of the way the White House press corps treats him. Are reporters tough enough? Here's what passed for a grilling.
Why did you wait days to come out and express that outrage? It seems like the action is coming out of New York and the Attorney General's office. It took you days to come public with Secretary Geithner and say, look, we're outraged. Why did it take so long?
It took us a couple of days because I like to know what I'm talking about before I speak.
Well, he was talking about the AIG bonuses, and it turns out that the White House media controllers, well, they're choosing reporters from some outlets you wouldn't expect to be in attendance, like Ebony Magazine and Stars and Stripes. Is the media doing its job, and what's going on with these conferences? Liz Trotta takes on the scribes every Sunday at this time. Liz?
Morning.
Good morning. I mean, it's getting like this strange kabuki dance going on. You don't know what he's going to say, who they're going to call, and they left out some of the major media outlets of this country at this news conference.
You know, Eric, we're really witnessing something historic going on with the presidential news conference. President Obama has taken control of it like no other president I've ever seen. By eliminating, for example, the top newspapers, he's really, which by the way are viewed, as you know, as an intellectual muscle of the media, he's managed to show something different. That is, he's going to tailor the questions and the answers to the way he wants them. Now, there are competing agendas here. The press is supposed to be there to represent the people. The president is there to protect his policies, and he wants to be reelected. But here we're in the middle of a social and economic revolution, probably the biggest we've had in the country's history, and nobody seems to be able to get a straight answer. Instead, what we're presented with is pre-selected questions in a tightly controlled news conference where at the beginning the president reads a very self-serving statement from a large movie screen, and then he calls on people, for example, from Univision and from the Stars and Stripes and from Ebony. Now, this isn't to say that these people have a right to get a slice of the pie, but let's face it, the tough questions are going to come from the big guys in the media. And I'm talking about mainly newspaper people here, because the television networks certainly haven't covered themselves with glory.
Well, you're not suggesting that he knows the questions ahead of time when you say he doesn't get them, like pre-selected questions. Our Major Garrett, who he called on, certainly would not submit a question, would never think of that and would ask tough questions.
No, but the questioners, and let me correct myself if I said questions. The questioners are chosen ahead of time. That is brand new in the history of the presidential news conference. There isn't jostling for position anymore. There isn't spontaneity. In fact, we even have a line of shrubbery in front of the podium just to make sure that we know that there's a barrier between the ink-stained wretches and the president. But so what you have is, we have 13 questions at this news conference, most of which, except for the one we just showed, didn't elicit anything. And of course, in this case, it elicited testiness from President Obama. Instead of whining about things, the press has got to get tough. This is extremely important stuff that's going on. People are worried, and the press is not asking the tough questions.
Well, you have a good point. I mean, there was no New York Times, no Washington Post, no Wall Street Journal, no USA Today.
Exactly.
I think we and some other broadcast networks can acquit ourselves very well. But at the same time, look at the question he got at the first press conference from the Washington Post. It was about A-Rod and steroids.
Well, that was the first news conference, so I think everybody was of a mind to give him a pass. Now, I still think that most of the mainstream media are still ready to give him a pass, but how long is it going to be before they get really annoyed at being frozen out? This morning, for example, who's all over the morning network shows? Well, it's President Obama, and it's Tim Geithner, now being referred to as Toxic Tim in some quarters. So what I'm saying is that they're full steam ahead, almost 24 hours a day, selling their plan to the media. One wonders how they ever have time to do any reflection or real work. And it goes out there as pure PR, with the American public still left wondering what is going on in Washington.
Well, we'll probably get some more answers. I'm sure there'll be another news conference very soon, and hopefully they'll be asking those tough questions. Liz Trotta, always raising good issues. Thanks for joining us as always.